Welcome to StudentSuccessHQ.com. This podcast is dedicated to students of all ages, so whether you be junior high, senior high, post-secondary, and it's designed and filled with tricks and techniques and tips. You know, as we move through our schooling careers, we intuitively pick up a lot of things about how to be a student, but very rarely is it taught to us the shortcuts, the extra special little things that can work for us and make our lives a little bit easier. Well, this podcast is going to deal with listening and note-taking, obviously a tremendously important part of being a student. And there are some techniques, and there are some things that you need to know that you can be cognizant of, aware of, in terms of the things that you need to do in order to be the best learner that you can be. Taking notes while a teacher is writing on the board or using a PowerPoint or lecture can be a challenging task. Some students try to record every word while others give up and write nothing at all. Basically, some students just become frustrated and they find it way too difficult to write notes and listen at the same time. One area of focus that can help significantly with the two extremes of this dichotomy is to focus on some of the tricks of active listening. So we want to understand the difference between hearing versus listening. Many students fall into the habit of just hearing. Hearing is a passive process. You hear the words but do not process them in any way. This will happen if you are tired, you're distracted by something else. You could be distracted by technology or a classmate, or you could just be poorly organized, or you've got personal problems that are weighing on you. What ends up happening is you begin to develop the habit of hearing and not listening. Listening is an active process, and as such does not take focus, or does take a great deal of focus and effort. So listening is totally different than hearing in that there needs to be some kind of active engagement on your part as the listener. This active engagement can be achieved in a variety of ways, one of which is planning. So you need to know that listening is an active process. It involves some planning to be an active listener. Before class, ask yourself a question like, what is it that I need to learn or understand? Determine the central theme or focus for that particular class. Many teachers put the outcomes right on the board for the class to read. How does the day relate directly to the curriculum? And ask yourself questions or jot down questions that you can ask later on. So here's some tips in association to active listening. Force yourself to be consistent and use a system of note-taking or mind mapping that works for you. And we'll be in future podcasts taking a closer look at note-taking and a closer look at mind mapping as well. For each class, determine the central idea. Use abbreviations when you're taking notes. And don't use articles or prepositions. Stay away from words like and the. Do not overreact to what the teacher says. Sometimes the teacher specifically is trying, especially in a social studies class, trying to evoke an emotional response. Or they may say something that upsets you, in which case you're going to revert to hearing as opposed to listening. If you do disagree with something, jot down arguments and keep listening. Don't stop listening. Do not let emotionally charged words throw you off track. And try not to tune out. The next big piece for students is try to not tolerate or allow any distractions. So in other words, your classmate that's sitting beside you, or it used to be that you would pass a note, whereas today it may be a text or a Snapchat that's sent to you. Do not be distracted by personal technology. This is a huge challenge today. If your mind wanders, pull yourself back in by identifying key words to write in your notes. The mind and its ability to process information, its imagination, your ability to daydream, can move at a blazing 400 words per minute. Yet we speak at 150 words per minute, and sometimes we read slower than that. You can see how easy it is for us to wander off. You can begin to see the challenge for learners. That is why note-taking plays such a huge part of the learning process, because it engages more of our tremendous brain capacity, and in so doing allows us to be active listeners instead of passive hearers. Note-taking plays such a significant role, and even if you never refer back to those notes, the actual process of note-taking and the engagement of more than one modality, now you've got your ears working, your auditory, you've got your eyes working in terms of quickly scanning and reading the notes that you've taken, and you've got the whole kinesthetic thing happening with the movement of a pen or the typing on a keyboard. All of these things can help significantly. Thank you very much for joining us today at StudentSuccessHQ.com. We look forward to having you visit our website and our blog. You can also find us, of course, on iTunes and podcast library under StudentSuccessHQ.com. But give us a visit. There's so much more.